The fluorescent lights of St. Catherine Hospital's neonatal intensive care unit cast a cold brilliance across the sterile corridors. The silence of the night shift was broken only by the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the low hum of ventilators. But tonight, that familiar quiet was about to shatter. "Get your hands off that baby, now!" Director Dr. Patricia Whitmore's voice cut through the NICU like a surgical blade. Her perfectly pressed white coat seemed to glow under the harsh lights as she strode toward Incubator 7, where Nurse Maya Thompson stood frozen, her dark hands hovering just inches above the tiny premature infant inside. "Dr. Whitmore, I don't care what you were doing. Step away from that child immediately." Maya's hands trembled as she pulled back. Around them, the other night shift nurses had stopped what they were doing. This wasn't the first time Dr. Whitmore had singled out Maya, but it was the first time she'd done it so publicly, so aggressively. The baby in question was Emma Chen, born at just 28 weeks, weighing barely 2 pounds. Her parents had spent the last 3 weeks sleeping in the hospital's family waiting room, terrified every time an alarm went off. "This is the third time I've caught you unnecessarily handling patients," Patricia continued. "We have protocols for a reason. These babies are fragile, and I will not have careless handling jeopardizing their recovery." Maya's colleague, Sarah Martinez, stepped forward. "Dr. Whitmore, Maya was implementing kangaroo care. I didn't ask for your input, Nurse Martinez." Patricia's gaze remained fixed on Maya. "Kangaroo care requires parental consent and physician approval, neither of which were documented." "Both were documented," Maya said quietly, her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. "If you check the chart, are you questioning my authority?" The words hung in the air like a threat. Maya had worked at St. Catherine for 5 years. She'd specialized in neonatal care at Johns Hopkins. She'd published research on skin-to-skin contact and premature infants. But none of that mattered in this moment, because Dr. Patricia Whitmore saw only one thing: a black woman who didn't belong in her pristine, predominantly white hospital. "I'm not questioning your authority. I'm simply stating that the proper documentation exists." Patricia smiled without warmth. "Then, perhaps you won't mind if I verify that. In the meantime, you're removed from direct patient care. You can spend your time reorganizing the supply closet." The humiliation was intentional. Several nurses exchanged uncomfortable glances, but no one spoke up. In a hospital where Dr. Whitmore controlled everything, silence was survival. As Maya walked toward the supply closet, she caught sight of Emma Chen's monitor. The baby's heart rate was elevated, oxygen saturation dropping. Maya had seen these signs before. The baby was becoming distressed without the calming presence of touch. But she kept walking. What choice did she have? In the supply closet, Maya leaned against the metal shelving, hands shaking. She thought about quitting. But then she remembered why she'd become a NICU nurse. Her younger brother, Marcus, born at 26 weeks. The black nurse who had advocated for him, who had taught their mother about kangaroo care, even when doctors said it was too risky. Marcus was 23 now, studying engineering. He existed because someone had cared enough to trust their instincts. Maya took a deep breath. She wouldn't quit. Not tonight, not ever. But in exactly 47 minutes, everything would change. Back in the NICU, baby Emma Chen's condition was deteriorating. Her oxygen saturation continued to drop. Her heart rate became irregular. The alarms were now constant. Sarah Martinez tried everything. Adjusted the ventilator, checked IV lines, repositioned the baby. Nothing worked. Emma was spiraling fast. "Page Dr. Whitmore," Sarah called out. "Get respiratory down here now." Within minutes, the unit transformed into controlled chaos. Dr. Whitmore arrived barking orders. They ran tests, checked vitals, consulted charts. But Emma Chen wasn't responding. "What changed it?" Patricia demanded. "She was stable an hour ago." Sarah hesitated. "Nurse Thompson was doing kangaroo care before you reassigned her." Patricia's jaw tightened. Kangaroo care doesn't stabilize vitals that dramatically. But a small voice in her mind whispered doubt. She'd seen it before, 15 years ago, a different baby, a different nurse. "Increase the oxygen," Patricia ordered, pushing the thought away. They increased it. Emma's oxygen saturation continued to drop. "Start chest compressions." The tiny baby's body jerked with each compression, her translucent skin turning frightening blue. In the supply closet, Maya felt it. That instinct every experienced NICU nurse develops. Something was wrong. She stepped into the hallway and heard it. Urgent voices, the specific chaos that meant a baby was coding. Her feet moved before her mind could catch up. When she reached the NICU doors, she saw Emma Chen surrounded by medical staff. The monitors showed a heart rate of 62 and falling. For a newborn, that was catastrophic. Maya's hand touched the door handle. "Don't even think about it, Thompson." Dr. Whitmore's voice was sharp, but Maya heard something else. Fear. "You're not authorized." "That baby is dying," Maya said quietly. "We're handling it." "No, you're not." Maya's voice was steady, calm. "She needs skin-to-skin contact. Her nervous system is in distress. The interventions are making it worse." "That's hippie nonsense," Patricia snapped, but her hands shook as she watched Emma's heart rate drop to 58. "It's science," Maya countered, "and it's her only chance." The entire unit held its breath. Patricia stared at the monitors, at the baby whose life was slipping away despite every medical intervention. She thought about protocols, liability, her career. She thought about that day 15 years ago. And then she thought about what she'd see in the mirror tomorrow if this baby died because of her pride. "Fine," she whispered. "Do it." Maya didn't hesitate. She scrubbed quickly, gowned up, and approached the incubator. With practiced hands, she lifted Emma Chen, all 2 pounds of her, and placed the tiny infant against her chest, skin to skin. The baby's heart rate was at 54 when Maya began to hum. It was a low, rhythmic sound, matching a mother's heartbeat. Around her, the medical staff stood frozen, watching monitors like they were watching a miracle. Maya's hands supported the baby's head and bottom, her body heat regulating Emma's temperature. She breathed slowly, deliberately. "Come on, sweet girl," Maya whispered. "Come back to us." Emma Chen's oxygen saturation began to climb. Her skin started to pink up. The alarms began to quiet. Patricia Whitmore stood in the corner, her composed face cracking. Because she'd seen this before. 15 years ago, another baby in distress, another black nurse who had advocated for kangaroo care. And Patricia, young and arrogant, had said no. That baby had died. Emma Chen's heart rate stabilized at 142, perfectly normal. Her oxygen saturation climbed to 95%. The crisis was over. Maya stayed there for 20 minutes, holding the baby, humming softly. When she finally placed Emma back in the incubator, the infant's vitals remained stable. The NICU was silent, except for the normal beeping of monitors. Sarah Martinez spoke first. "I've never seen anything like that." Patricia Whitmore turned and walked to her office without a word. But everyone saw the tears she was trying to hide. Word spread through the hospital like wildfire. The black nurse who had been publicly humiliated had just saved a baby's life using a method the racist director had mocked. Nurses who had remained silent before now spoke up. By morning, a petition was circulating demanding Maya Thompson be recognized and Dr. Patricia Whitmore be investigated. But the real story wouldn't emerge for another 3 days. When the Chens returned, they found their daughter stable and sleeping. Sarah explained what happened, making clear that Maya had saved Emma's life. Lisa Chen began to cry. "Can we meet her?" When Maya walked in, she found herself wrapped in the embrace of 2 grateful parents who had no idea they were hugging the woman who had almost been prevented from saving their daughter because of the color of her skin. "Thank you for saving our daughter," Michael Chen said, voice breaking. Maya smiled, but her eyes drifted to Dr. Whitmore's office. Through the window, she could see the director staring at something. What Maya didn't know was that Patricia was looking at a photo, a faded picture of a baby boy. Thomas Whitmore, born at 27 weeks, died at 3 weeks old when his grandmother had overruled the nursing staff's recommendation for kangaroo care, insisting on aggressive medical intervention instead. Her grandson, her daughter's only child. The reason her daughter no longer spoke to her. The reason she'd spent 15 years becoming the hardest, coldest, most by-the-book director in the system. Because if she followed every rule, she could convince herself that Thomas's death wasn't her fault. But tonight, watching Maya Thompson save Emma Chen using the exact method she'd once dismissed, Patricia was forced to confront the truth she'd been running from. She had let her grandson die, and she'd almost let another baby die for the exact same reason, not because of medicine, not because of protocol, because of pride, because of prejudice, because she couldn't accept that sometimes the wisdom she needed came from people she'd been taught to dismiss. As dawn broke, two women stood on opposite sides of the NICU, one black, one white, one humiliated, one humbled, both forever changed by one tiny baby who had almost died because adults couldn't see past their own biases. The revolution that was about to shake St. Catherine Hospital had begun with a heartbeat, and it was far from over. 3 days after Emma Chen's crisis, St. Catherine Hospital had transformed. Nurses who once walked with heads down now made eye contact. Whispered conversations were now held openly. At the center was a petition with 247 signatures demanding accountability. Maya Thompson arrived for her shift to find nurses waiting outside the NICU. Sarah Martinez stood at the front holding a clipboard. "We're not starting until Dr. Whitmore addresses what happened," Sarah announced. "What she did to you was discrimination. We're not pretending it wasn't." Maya's throat tightened. For 5 years, she'd felt isolated. But now, looking at the unified faces, black, white, Latina, Asian, she realized she'd never truly been alone. "You could lose your jobs," Maya said quietly. "Then we lose them together," said Jennifer Park, who'd worked there 12 years. "I'm tired of watching good people get torn down." Inside her office, Patricia Whitmore stared at the growing crowd. Her assistant Marcus stood beside her. "You could call security," Marcus suggested. Patricia laughed bitterly. "And prove every accusation true? No. Are you going to tell them about Thomas?" Patricia's hand went to the locket beneath her coat. Inside was the only photo of her grandson. "I don't know," she whispered. Her phone rang. The hospital's CEO, Richard Ashford. "Patricia, we need to talk. My office. Now." Richard Ashford's office overlooked the city. Spread across his desk, the petition, incident report spanning 3 years, and a confidential complaint from Dr. James Morrison. "Did you know about this?" Richard held up Morrison's complaint. 5 incidents of troubling bias toward staff of color. Patricia remained composed, but inside her walls were crumbling. "Dr. Morrison sees racism where there's simply high standards." "High standards?" Richard's voice rose. "Maya Thompson has a master's from Johns Hopkins, published in 3 journals, best patient outcomes in the system, and you had her cleaning closets?" "I had concerns." "Stop. I've seen the security footage, Patricia, the NICU hallway camera, everything." Patricia felt blood drain from her face. "I saw you humiliate a nurse for doing her job correctly. I saw you let pride almost kill a baby. Then I saw that same nurse save the baby while you watched." Richard leaned forward. "The board is meeting to discuss your termination. I asked for 24 hours to hear your side, so talk." Patricia had spent 15 years building armor around her heart, 15 years pretending that following every rule could bring back her grandson. But standing there with her career crumbling, that armor shattered. "His name was Thomas," she whispered. "My grandson. Born at 27 weeks. Richard's expression softened, but he stayed silent. "Complications brought him here so I could oversee his care. I thought aggressive interventions and latest technology would save him. What happened? There was a nurse. Angela. Black, about Maya's age. She kept suggesting kangaroo care, skin to skin with Sarah. Said Thomas was too stressed, that interventions were making it worse." Patricia closed her eyes. "I told her she didn't know what she was talking about. Said if we wanted folk remedies, we'd go to a witch doctor." The ugly words hung in the air. Thomas died 3 days later. Multiple organ failure. The autopsy showed catastrophically high cortisol levels. The medical examiner noted stress reduction intervention might have... She couldn't finish. "Your daughter?" Sarah blamed me. She was right. I let my arrogance and prejudice kill her son. She hasn't spoken to me in 15 years. Richard was quiet. And when you saw Maya with Emma, I saw Thomas. My failure. But instead of learning, I tried stopping her from succeeding where I failed, because if she was right, then Thomas died because of me. For the first time in 15 years, Patricia Whitmore wept. Outside, Maya stood with the nurses. They'd waited 2 hours, solidarity growing stronger. Whatever happens, Sarah Martinez said, we did the right thing. The elevator opened. Dr. Patricia Whitmore stepped out. The hallway fell silent. Patricia walked slowly toward the group. Her eyes were red, her composure shattered. For the first time, Patricia Whitmore looked human. Nurse Thompson, Patricia said, voice rough. May I speak with you? Privately? Maya glanced at Sarah, who nodded. We'll be right here. In an empty patient room, Patricia closed the door. I owe you an apology. But first, I need to tell you why I became the person who treated you so terribly. Patricia told Maya everything. About Thomas, about Angela, about 15 years of burying guilt under protocols, about seeing every confident black nurse as a reminder of failure. I almost let another baby die because I was too proud and prejudiced to see that help was right in front of me. I'm sorry. Not just for that night, but for every microaggression, every dismissal, every time I made you feel you didn't belong when you belong more than I do. Maya listened, face unreadable. When Patricia finished, silence filled the room. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve the truth, and because I'm resigning. What? I submitted my resignation this morning. I can't lead this unit anymore. Patricia looked directly at Maya. And I'm recommending you as my replacement. Maya stepped back, stunned. I don't want your job. I know, that's why you should have it. Patricia managed a sad smile. You saved a baby with compassion and science while I let trauma and prejudice cloud judgment. This unit needs someone who leads with competence and humanity. That's you. Maya thought about being overlooked, dismissed, told to be grateful. She thought about the supply closet, the humiliation. But she also thought about Emma Chen, her brother Marcus, all the babies who deserved nurses unafraid to trust their instincts. If I accept, Maya said slowly, things are going to change, really change. They should, Patricia replied. They must. The announcement came 2 days later. Dr. Patricia Whitmore was stepping down. In her place, pending board approval, would be Maya Thompson, M.S., R.N. On Maya's first day as interim director, she found an envelope on her desk. Inside was Patricia's handwriting. Dear Maya, enclosed is my daughter Sarah's contact. I've explained everything and asked if she'd speak with you about Thomas. I don't expect forgiveness. But by stepping aside and letting you lead, I hope to begin making amends. Also enclosed is Angela's contact. She's now Dr. Angela Williams, running a kangaroo care research program in Seattle. I apologized yesterday. She's gracious and would love collaborating with you. You're going to be extraordinary. Patricia Maya read it 3 times, then placed it in her drawer. She looked out at the NICU, her NICU now, where tiny babies fought for life every day. Then she picked up the phone and called Dr. Angela Williams. 6 months later, St. Catherine Hospital's NICU had the state's lowest infant mortality rate. Kangaroo care was standard protocol. Staff diversity increased 40%. Maya had been featured in 3 major medical journals. Emma Chen thrived, discharged months earlier. Her parents brought her for checkups, always asking for Director Thompson. During one visit, Michael Chen pulled Maya aside. You know what Emma's first word was? He asked, eyes glistening. It was Maya. Not Mama, not Dada, Maya. Lisa Chen nodded, holding their now healthy daughter. The nurses told us what really happened that night. How you were sent away, how you came back anyway. She paused. You didn't just save her life. You changed ours. We see people differently now. We speak up differently now. That's what revolution looks like, Maya thought. Not just changing systems, but changing hearts. Patricia had moved to Boston, volunteering at a community clinic with teenage mothers. The work was humbling. She now spent her days in the kind of under-resourced facility she'd once looked down on. But here, among young mothers who'd been dismissed by the medical establishment, she finally understood what Maya had been trying to teach her. She'd started therapy and received a letter from Sarah. 3 sentences. I got your letter. I'm not ready to talk yet, but I'm glad you're getting help. It was enough. For now, it was enough. Patricia had learned that redemption wasn't a destination, it was a daily practice of showing up and doing better. In Seattle, Dr. Angela Williams smiled reading Maya's latest research paper. She thought about that young nurse 15 years ago who'd fought so hard for baby Thomas. She'd lost that fight, but maybe, just maybe, that loss had planted seeds that were finally bearing fruit. She picked up her phone and texted Maya. Thomas would be so proud. I know I am. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from failures, and sometimes the greatest changes begin when someone has the courage to admit they were wrong. But most importantly, change continues when others have the courage to forgive, to collaborate, and to ensure that no one else has to lose what they lost. 1 year after that night in the NICU, Maya Thompson stood before 200 medical professionals at the National Neonatal Care Conference. The auditorium was packed, cameras rolling. But first, she did something unexpected. I want to tell you about a baby named Thomas Whitmore, Maya said. He died 15 years ago because the medical establishment failed him. Not from lack of technology, but from something more dangerous, prejudice disguised as protocol. On the screen appeared a photo. Patricia had given permission. A tiny baby with tubes everywhere, his grandmother standing rigidly beside the incubator instead of holding him. Thomas's nurse, Angela Williams, recommended kangaroo care. She knew Thomas needed connection, not more intervention, but she was dismissed. Why? Because she was a black woman suggesting something white doctors didn't understand or respect. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Thomas died. His death haunted 2 women for 15 years, the nurse who couldn't save him and the doctor whose prejudice prevented listening. But Thomas's death also planted a seed that grew into revolution. Maya clicked to the next slide. Emma Chen, healthy and celebrating her first birthday. This is Emma. She almost became another Thomas, but she didn't, because enough people said no more. No more dismissing expertise because it doesn't look like what we expect. No more confusing bias with standards. She paused. In the past year, St. Catherine implemented mandatory bias training. We diversified hiring. We elevated 3 nurses of color to leadership. Most importantly, we made kangaroo care foundational. Statistics filled the screen. Our infant mortality dropped 34%. Parent satisfaction increased 67%. We eliminated racial disparities. Black and brown babies now have the same survival rates as white babies, not from special treatment, but equal treatment. Applause built into a standing ovation. But Maya wasn't finished. I'm not here for congratulations. I'm here to challenge you. Every hospital has a Maya Thompson, someone whose expertise is overlooked because of race, gender, or appearance. Every hospital has a Patricia Whitmore, someone whose trauma prevents clear sight, and every hospital has a Thomas Whitmore waiting to happen. Silence. What are you going to do about it? In the audience sat Dr. Angela Williams. Next to her was Dr. James Morrison. She's remarkable, Angela whispered, tears in her eyes. Patricia should see this, James said. She is, Angela replied, pointing to the back. Standing in the doorway was Patricia Whitmore. She'd bought a ticket under a different name. After the presentation, Maya was surrounded by attendees, but she caught Patricia trying to leave and excused herself. Dr. Whitmore, Maya called. You came. Patricia turned, face mixing pride and pain. I hope it was okay. I'm glad you're here. Actually, I was hoping you'd do something. Anything. Next year's conference. A joint presentation, you and me, from crisis to change. We tell everything, Thomas, Emma, all of it. We show people change is possible. Patricia's eyes widened. You want me to publicly admit? I want you to publicly demonstrate that accountability and redemption are possible, Maya interrupted gently. You owned your mistakes. Stepped aside when needed. You're doing the work. That story is as important as mine. I don't deserve. This isn't about what you deserve. It's about what other babies deserve. If seeing your transformation helps one doctor recognize their biases before a baby dies, isn't that worth your discomfort? Patricia was quiet, then nodded. You're right. I'll do it. How's Sarah? We're talking. Slowly, meeting for coffee next month. Patricia smiled sadly. More than I thought I'd have. That's really good. And you? Director Thompson? Maya laughed. Terrified most days, exhilarated others, but we're making real change. You're extraordinary, Maya. Patricia held out her hand. Thank you for giving me a chance to be part of the solution. Maya took it. Thank you for stepping aside so the right person could lead. Back at St. Catherine, evening shift was beginning. Sarah Martinez, now assistant director under Maya's leadership, was doing rounds when she noticed a new family in the waiting room. She'd learned from Maya that the first moments with families set the tone for everything that followed. Young, early 20s. The mother was black, the father Latino. They looked terrified. Sarah recognized that look, the one that said they'd already been made to feel small, already been told their baby wasn't worth fighting for. Hi, Sarah approached gently. I'm Sarah Martinez, assistant director. Are you the Johnsons? The young mother nodded. Our baby, Aisha. She's so small. Only 26 weeks. The other hospital said. Her voice broke. Said what? That babies like her don't usually make it, that we should prepare ourselves. Sarah felt anger flash but kept calm. Babies like her. The father spoke. They didn't say it directly, but we got the message. Poor, young, not married. They treated us like we didn't deserve their best effort. You're at St. Catherine now. Here's what I promise. Your daughter gets the absolute best care, not despite who you are, but because she deserves it. Every baby does. She led them to the NICU, where baby Aisha lay in an incubator, tiny and perfect and fighting. The Johnsons stood frozen at the sight of their daughter, so small and fragile, covered in wires and tubes. This was every parent's nightmare made real. There's someone I want you to meet, Sarah said, paging Maya. The best person I know. Maya arrived, still in conference travel clothes. She immediately saw what Sarah had. A family dismissed, told their baby wasn't worth the effort. I'm Maya Thompson, director here. Tell me about Aisha. As the parents told their story, dismissive doctors, judgment, fear, being treated like they didn't matter, Maya listened with her full attention, not interrupting, not rushing, not dismissing. She'd learned long ago that medical care wasn't just about protocols and procedures. It was about seeing people, truly seeing them, recognizing their inherent worth, and treating them with the dignity every human being deserves. It was about understanding that sometimes the most powerful medicine was simply being heard. Starting today, you're part of Aisha's care team. We'll teach you kangaroo care, how to read monitors, understand her cues. You're not visitors. You're experts on your daughter. The young mother cried. Really? Really. And if anyone treats you with less than complete respect, you come directly to me. Maya handed her card. My cell phone's on the back. As Maya showed them around, Sarah watched with a smile. This was the culture they'd built, where every family was valued, where expertise was recognized in all forms. It was the culture Emma Chen's near death had sparked and Thomas Whitmore's death had demanded. 2 years later, the St. Catherine model had been adopted by 47 hospitals. Maya's research was cited in over 200 papers. Angela Williams had joined as director of research, and Patricia's daughter Sarah had started visiting regularly. One afternoon, Sarah brought someone, a 5-year-old boy. Maya, Sarah said, voice shaking. This is Thomas. Named after his uncle. The little boy looked up. Mommy says you help babies. I do, Maya confirmed, kneeling. Want to see? As Maya gave young Thomas a tour, Patricia stood in the hallway watching. She thought about the other Thomas, about how her pride and prejudice created tragedy. and how, impossibly, that tragedy had transformed into something saving lives daily. "She's good with him," Sarah said quietly, standing beside her mother. "She's good with everyone," Patricia replied. "She's everything I should have been." Sarah was quiet, then hesitantly took her mother's hand. "You're not that person anymore, Mom. You're the person who made sure no other baby would die the same way." Patricia squeezed her daughter's hand, unable to speak through tears. Inside, young Thomas asked Maya, "Why do some babies need more help?" "Because everyone's different," Maya explained. "Some babies come ready to go, some need extra time to get strong. But every single one is worth fighting for. Every single one matters, even if they're different, especially if they're different." Through the window, Maya caught Patricia's eye and smiled, a smile of forgiveness, of understanding, of two women who learned the hardest way that change was possible if you were willing to do the work. If this story about transformation, redemption, and standing up for what's right touched your heart, remember that real change happens when we stop being silent. The revolution doesn't need grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with one person refusing to step away from a baby who needs them. Emma Chen is 3 now, thriving. The Johnsons' daughter Aisha just celebrated her 2nd birthday. And in Boston, a little boy named Thomas plays without knowing his uncle's death, sparked a revolution that saved hundreds of lives. That's how real change works. It starts with tragedy, grows through courage, transforms into hope when people decide the next generation deserves better. The heart that stopped that night in St. Catherine's NICU started a different heartbeat, one echoing through hospitals nationwide, reminding us that medicine without humanity is just machinery, and that the most important vital sign is whether we're truly seeing the people we're meant to serve.